Okay. What the fuck? This video is gonna be a little off the cuff. I'm gonna try a different style than trying to like script it or anything like that. So I have to like warn three things pretty much. My voice is probably getting progressively louder and louder the more emotional I get about this, or even lower. We don't know yet. And I guess the other thing would be is that nothing's gonna be that correlated. Like it's gonna be a lot of tangents probably. And the third thing is that I have not yet seen Evangelion Death True to the Power of Two, if you read it the way it's written on Netflix, or the end of Evangelion. I'm literally just reviewing the 26 episodes. And by 26 episodes, I mean the actual ending, because what the fuck was that? I just. It's both kind of like sad, amazing, and just awfully stupid. How obvious is they just ran out of budget, like towards the very end. They literally turned to hand drawings for half the last episode, and because they ran out of budget, I bet that's why this whole fucking episode is so metaphysical and doesn't make any fucking sense. I don't know what the hell happens in this episode. Is he like in this alternate engine, has everyone kind of doing like a kind of Matrix level thing, and then they're just leaving it all to Shinji? Now this kind of makes sense. If this is how the world's gonna end, it might as well end be put in the hands of a depressed Gen Z kid. Because that's essentially what Shinji is for like this whole series. A depressed Gen Z kid who's just constantly thinking about how many ways he can kill himself but never does it. Like any person who's like, oh, I stubbed my toe today. I'm gonna take myself out. That's Shinji all the time. Like this last few episodes, just constantly him talking about all his problems. When I feel like a lot of them would just be solved by him punching his dad in the face because his dad fucking sucks. Let's talk about his dad. Now let's just go back through the whole series and start with the fact that this whole series begins with his dad summoning him to his presence like the biggest fucking asshole on the planet. Not so he can finally spend time with his son for like the first time in years, so he can get in a giant mech, fight for his life, and contemplate the meaning of life. I think he tells Shinji, good job, once in a scene that's not a hallucination. Hallucinations that repeat all the scenes because of budget cuts don't count. I think maybe there's one time in this whole fucking series so far where Shinji's dad actually tells him, good job, Shinji. Maybe that's just like the new Netflix dub. Josh's preference that this is the Netflix version. I've never seen the original version. This is probably why I'm like so freaked out from what I watched. But like, from the moment you see Shinji's first reaction to his father, like when he first meets his father, you kind of immediately get like one of the big overarching themes of the show. Like, you immediately realize that this is like how it's about, I guess, a mental and emotional abuse, specifically from your parents, because Shinji's father is just like a monster. And I say this as like a person that had kids who's from like the point of view of a kid. If I had a dad like that, he has he abandoned Shinji upon his mother's death, and somehow has manipulated his son into being like devoted on his approval. Like, Shinji's happiness is built on whether or not he gets his father's approval, and then that expands out to the rest of the people around him, like his friends, like Misato, Rei, Soru. I call her by her last name because I can't pronounce her first name. So we're just gonna call the girl in the red outfit, who we all know her first name, but your boy here can't pronounce it, so we're just gonna call him Soru. As much as that may piss off people who, love that tsundere chick. But back to the point. His dad is like a monster who's built Shinji to be so emotionally invested with what some people think of him that he can't be happy unless he has people praising him or his approval that tell him that he's a good job, to convince him that he doesn't, they don't all hate him. Like, how fucked up as a parent do you have to be that your kid's so emotionally, irreparably damaged to think that everyone hates him? He thinks everyone hates him. That's so fucked up and sad and depressing. And I just want to give Shinji a hug. Oh my god, I feel so bad for Shinji this whole show. Like, I don't really like his character. Like, he's not a character I would write, or as, like, for one of my books, or a character I would put, I guess, on, like, a top 100 list, because he doesn't really appeal to me. Because maybe it's just, like, my own problem. Like, he's a pretty, like, effeminate, submissive character, and I guess I just don't go for those characters outside of, like, a cute context, and there's nothing cute about this show. But, like, I still feel bad for him. I feel bad for him, like, the whole show. I see, realize how much, like, I'm so glad I have, like, a good dad. Where Shinji is just as the worst dad on the planet and a dead mom. What is with anime and giving male characters terrible dads and dead moms? Like, the fuck? God. But that's, like, the overarching theme that you can just plant through all the episodes. It's kind of like, what's the kids? When Shinji, like, I think it's halfway through the series now, so I watched this over a week. He has to fight his best friend who's in Ava Unit 4 or 5? No, 4, because 3 exploded. And he's an agent, his best friend, one of his close friends, who originally punched him at the beginning of the series for accidentally kind of, like, causing a building to fall on his sister, who you never meet. But besides that, he has to fight his friend, who's in another mech. But he doesn't know it's his friend until after his father has taken control of his mech and made him kill I think he killed his friend against his will. He doesn't even realize that his friend is alive. He realizes that his friend survives the moment he realizes that his friend is the one in the mech. And Shinji loses his fucking mind, like understandably. Like, his dad knew that his close friend was in the enemy mech, and never told him. I mean, like, so many people didn't tell Shinji. But, like, this is more despicable that his father didn't, because his father is the one who said, you have to fight him, and if you don't, I'm going to fight for you. Which is essentially what happened, because the EVA units are, like, I've always felt like they're emotionally connected to the pilot. So, like, when Shinji is forced to fight his friend with, like, the dummy system, I still feel like that's Shinji. I think Shinji feels like that's Shinji. Shinji feels like that's him gripping his best friend by the neck and killing him. And his father made him do it. And his father is the worst. This whole video might end up being, like, me complaining about how fucking terrible Shinji's father is. Oh god, it's an amazing scene, I think, when Shinji has, like, this emotional snap, and he thinks about how, like, it's not ever said, but this is like a quote from my boy Geralt in The Witcher 3 and Quentin game, is that he says, if that's what it takes to save the world, then it's better to let the world die. And Shinji kind of had this thought process that after he was forced to fight his friend, almost kill him, almost strangle him to death, he kind of has the same ideas, like, if that's what it took to save the world, we should let the world die. And I was telling him, like, no, we would all be dead if we didn't do this, Shinji. You did the right thing, it was necessary. And Shinji's like, I don't give a fuck. I could walk through there and kill all of you to kill my dad. Because, like, Shinji doesn't really want to hurt anybody, but Shinji thought the whole series probably wants to hurt his dad, understandably. He really does want to just take his dad into, like, the big, huge mech and just crush him. Because his dad's the fucking worst. And it's just, oh god. That's my favorite moment. Is when Shinji just snaps and he's like, I'm going to finally just give my father peace of my mind, physically and mentally, because he deserves it. He's the worst. He's going to make me kill my best friend. Not best friend, but he's up there. That kid was up there. This kid whose name I don't remember because I have a hard time remembering Japanese names. That's like on me, but still. And then another favorite scene is when Shinji is standing in front of his. No, I shouldn't say favorite. It's nerve wracking. It enraged me. Is when Shinji is been knocked out and reawakened. He's standing in front of his father in cuffs, and his father's grilling him how immature he was for getting mad about having to fight his friend to the death. Like, fuck you, dude. Fuck you, Shinji's dad. I'm not gonna. I know his name is Gento or Gendo, and I can't pronounce it right. Or Ikari is like a lot of them just call him Director Ikari, General Ikari. I forget his position. It just wasn't important to me when watching the show what his position was. I was too busy hating him. But Ikari, he's gonna drill into his son about how it's immature of him to act like a normal fucking human being, as over in the middle of a battlefield after the battle's over, about him forcing him to fight his friend. And Shinji just takes it. Shinji's just revolted back. He's not in the mech. He doesn't have his power. Ikari, his dad, Shinji's dad, has taken away his son's power and ability to do anything to him, to threaten him, by literally handcuffing him alone in a room with no one around. It was like the ultimate power move, but it's a power move being done by someone you absolutely hate, so you can't actually like respect it. There's nothing funny about it. You just fucking hate him. I hate Shinji's dad. It just made Shinji seem so small and frail. And then Shinji pipes up and says, I don't want to be a naval pilot anymore or ever again. And for once, like the first time that happened, you're kind of just like, you're kind of overreacting, kid. Like, that's how the scene's played off. In the first, like, logically speaking, you would understand, like, hey, you don't want to fight angelic demon god monsters. That makes sense, but in the show, it makes it like you're being immature, Shinji, the first time. The second time, in front of his dad, after his dad has forced him to fight his friend to the death. I keep saying to the death, because they don't... I'm just going to keep saying it. Even though it's not necessarily factually correct. But he's... I get so riled up at this. This scene pisses me off so much that Shinji just sits there and takes it. He's had the power ripped from him. The chance to like actually lay into his father. Is him and his father alone. And his father is not the guy who's gonna probably interrupt him if Shinji starts laying into him. Because I think Ikari knows that he's a shitty dad. I think there's one thing about Ikari, that he's not flawed and deluded enough to think that he's a good person. I think Shinji's dad knows that he's the worst of the worst. And he would let Shinji reel into him, like just dig into him, everything he feels about his father, how much he hates his father, if Shinji really wanted to. But Shinji, he's already depowered Shinji. He's taken Shinji's strength away from him and kind of put him in a position where he feels frail and useless, so he doesn't. And I think that's the scummiest thing. I need to stop talking about Shinji's dad. I'm gonna like have an aneurysm. Now we talk about was probably one of the more like, I guess, what's the word for it? When not outrageous, the thing that causes the most outrage, the most controversial change of Netflix's dub. So let's look up this real quick. What was the famous scene that was changed from the original Evangelion to this new Netflix dub? What scene has Evangelion fans outraged? This is exactly what I'm typing. Here we go. Neon Genesis fans. Oh no, Fly Me to the Moon outro. Actually, I probably understand that. That was pretty good. But why is Evangelion fans not happy with their changes? A key gay romance has been erased from Evangelion. Now, first I would like to say that Hold on a second. Okay, I'm like a person of color. I get the idea that you're not always represented in shows. Like, I can't explain how much it meant to me how in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited that I got to see Jon Stewart and Shira Hall get together, like this black man and this white woman, because you never saw that happen. Like, my parents are white and black, like my mom's white, my dad's black, and I had never seen that on TV, and I don't think I've honestly seen it since. I can't think of one. But it means a lot to finally see someone who represents you. Like, usually I just see like someone who's black in a power position. Usually they're like a stereotype, and even when they're good, I can only half relate to them. And then with white characters, they're like so typically like they don't have any concept of what my life has been like. Yeah, it does sometimes get hard to relate to them. This is kind of why like representation is like really important. So I get the idea that I am straight, but I understand why when people felt that Evangelion was being straightwashed by removing the key scene between, I want to say, Shinji and, I can't pronounce this dude's name. I don't know this. Kaworu's. I've never been able to say his name, but like, I've seen the new scene and the old scene where they essentially, Kaworu says, I love you to Shinji in the original series, and people were upset that Netflix took that out and made it seem like, and had him say, I like you, you're worthy of my grace instead. Now, like, before I watched the episode, I thought that makes sense. Like, I had read the controversy beforehand. Like, you don't want to have what was probably a very seminal, relatable moment for you taken away. Because there really isn't that many gay relationships on cartoons now, let alone back when the show came out. And I could get the outrage about having that removed and changed. And then as I watched the show, I became less and less like understanding of it. Like, I'm at episode 22. There are 4 or 5 episodes left in the series, and the the male character who Shinji's supposed to have a relationship with hasn't shown up yet. And I'm like, how are they gonna fit a whole new romance into this series? Like, you've already barely built up the romance between Rei and Soru with Shinji, who, by the way, neither of those two are as good a waifu as Misato, but that's a different discussion entirely. But how are they gonna build up this like relationship? Like, such a few episodes, he's just gonna show up, and then he finally does. Kaworu, whose name I'm gonna say wrong throughout this whole video, finally does show up, and I'm like, really, how are they gonna do this? And then this whole episode, I'm thinking to myself, when's this famous scene? How long would I have to wait for this famous scene then? Because I know it's just gotta come up in the next 4 episodes. How are they gonna build up to that scene where Shinji and Kaworu in the pool together? And I forgot about that as I watched these 2 guys be the gayest fucking 2 boys I've ever seen. Like, people worry about people not realizing they were gay. It's fucking obvious that these 2 boys are in love with each other. There is, like, I get, subtext is not context. The subtext was so fucking strong between these 2 guys that I couldn't understand why she didn't jump on this dude's dick within the first 10 minutes of the episode. Like, they were so clearly in love. They were so clearly gay for each other that there was no point in this episode where I thought, yeah, they're straight. Like, this was not straight washing. These 2 guys were so clearly ready to dick the other one down that it's unfucking real. That anyone thought that these 2 weren't gay based off this like new dubbing. Like, they are so clearly sexually attracted to each other that this wasn't subtext. This was just the most action and facially featured context I've ever seen. Because every time that this kid looks at Shiru, this cute boy that Shiru clearly is in love, is like clearly like got the hots for. Shinji, I said Shiru, I meant Shinji. Shinji blushes. Shinji gets embarrassed. Shinji's like, "Oh, you want to hang out with me?" Like he's never like had that before. Like he never responds to anything that any of the female characters say. But when Shinji started gets flustered and like emotional and embarrassed around this every time this one guy like clearly is giving him the most obvious like I want to fuck you eyes I've ever seen. Like this is subtext. This was clearly a gay relationship. And then in that same episode, that's when it falls apart for me completely. Like they built this part out. This is like when the argument of the outrage and the contrary just falls apart for me because they're in that pool scene, and that's when I was like, wait a second, they're having it here. They just fucking met. They just met in this episode. Like unless there's like an implied time jump that I fucking missed. These kids have known each other for a couple hours, at most a day. And this was where when this boy is supposed to tell Shinji, "I love you." I didn't realize that people were so in love with Ted fucking Mosby here because he pulled a Ted fucking Mosby by telling Shinji, "I love you" after they know each other for a day. A day. This is not a romance. This is a fucking creeper ass story. If this kid tells Shinji, "I love you" after a day, it's actually I think it's an improvement that he says, "I like you. You're worthy of my grace." Mainly that second part is really weird. Lost in translation, I guess. But like, yeah, after knowing for a day, you're not gonna love somebody. If a guy tells you "I love you" after hanging out with you for like a day, that guy is either a liar, a creep, doesn't understand the language he's speaking, or is fucking psycho. Turns out the guy was fucking psycho in the show because he's an angel. He's ready to destroy the fucking world. But like they've known each other for a whole episode, a few hours, and they're in a pool scene, and everyone thought it was okay. Like this back when the original series came out. Like I'm assuming the animation hasn't changed all that much. I hope not, because I've only seen this original pool scene. Everyone thought it was okay for these two boys who just met to get in a pool scene together, and the one guy turns to him and says, "I love you" after knowing him for a few hours. That's not a romance. That's not the gay romance of the century. That's not like representation. That's fucking creepy. That's disturbing. Why would you tell someone "I love you" if they're knowing them for a few hours? A day at most. Like, no. This new version I honestly think is better because clearly these two guys are ready to fuck from the moment they met, is what it seemed like. It's just like, it was more normal, it was more relatable, and the, the relationship was actually kind of like romantic because one of them didn't come off as a fucking psycho until the very end. But like in the moment where all their romance and subtext is supposed to be I say subtext. It's supposed to be subtext when really it's clearly context for anyone with two eyes and is paying attention. That I lost my train of thought. Oh my god, this scene makes me so upset. This whole controversy makes me so upset that like I just can't get over it. Like people said that this was a great romance between Shinji and Kaworu. I know I said his name wrong. Please don't hate me for that. If you're gonna hate me for anything, please don't hate me for saying his name wrong. But like, to think that was like a good romance. I guess I must explain how desperate like the times were because there's so little, I guess, representation that they were gonna take. People who were looking for a gay relationship were gonna take whatever they can get because this original scene is disturbing. You don't tell someone "I love you" within the first few hours of knowing them. That's disturbing. That's creepy. When Ted Mosby did that to Robin in How I Met Your Mother, one of the first thing Ted and Robin both thought, what the fuck did he just say? What the fuck did I just say? Why did I say that? Why did he say that? You can't love him. We just met. You can't be in love with me. I can't be in love with her. We just met. Hey, remember the best part of Frozen where Anna goes up to Elsa and goes, "I want to marry him," and Elsa's just like, "You can't marry him. You just met. It's because you can't love someone that fast. That doesn't make any sense." I mean, you can love how they look. I'm sure they loved how the other one looked because they gave each other the fuck me eyes the whole episode. But like, that's not that wasn't a good romance. Like I can't say how much the Netflix dub has improved or ruined anything else. I understand like complaints about the pronunciation of nerve or narv, depending on how you want to say it, because it's fucking weird and strange how Netflix has done it. But like this change, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's a bad change because the context, if when you think about it and rewatch it, it's not good. It's not a healthy relationship. It's not a healthy idea of what the relationship should be. If you want, like, actively tell people that the first guy who's nice to you and tells you "I love you," even after not being able to know you at all, is a guy you should be with. That says a lot more about how terrible we are as like a society than most other things that happen in this show, because you shouldn't. You just shouldn't like fall for someone so fast. You shouldn't be so indebted to someone so fast. Shinji and Kaworu cannot be in love after a day. That's a bad relationship. That's a toxic relationship. That's a creepy relationship. Shinji should have turned around fucking running like any saying like any. If Shinji were a girl and that scene happened, everyone would be like, "Fucking girl, get the fuck away from him. That guy's a psycho. Fucking turn tail and run." But because it's two guys, because they're so, I guess, meaning that relationship so much, to have the representation so much, they kind of overlooked it, I guess. Like, that's the only rationale I can think of. Because I think, honestly, having the two of them decide that, hey, I like you. Because you can like someone after about 5 minutes. Maybe even faster than that. That's realistic. It's really easy to like somebody. To like anything. Well, for most people. I mean, I find it easy to... I just find it hard to like people. I hate people, usually. But I assume most people find it easier to like people. Considering, like... I watch people, sometimes. Like, when I'm not doing anything. When I'm just, like, in public. And I need something to do while I'm waiting online for, like, a pizza or something. But, tangent. Random tangent. Like, that... having him tell Shinji he likes him. The first person to tell him that... the first person to tell Shinji that they like him in the whole series is more interesting and healthy to me than having him say I love you. Like, it sounds like a bad writing or bad translation to have him say, like, I love you for the first, like, time they meet each other. And this is like 13 minutes of just me ranting about this fucking scene that I can't stand. And I can't stand the controversy and outrage about it. I guess, like, to round it all up is that I actually like the Netflix dub better. I don't think it eliminates the romance. I guess it does eliminate the romance of it, because the romance in the original was fucking creepy and toxic and terrible. Honestly, in my opinion. And traded it for a more kind of realistic depiction of how a friendship slash blossoming sexual relationship can grow. Not grow, I guess. How a blossoming sexual relationship can develop, I guess is the way to say it. And how Shinji and Kaworu, whose name I can't pronounce, whose name I can spell, but can't not pronounce, like, both realize their feelings for each other, I guess. How the fuck did Shinji go into his room and spend the night and not jump on his dick? That's what I don't understand. I'm trying to understand how after they spent 30 minutes of this episode, okay, I'm being hyperbolic about the time, how much time they spent together. But it's spent a lot of time just giving each other the fuck me eyes, and then they go to sleep in the same room together, literally like arms distance away, and they don't fuck. I don't understand how that happened. Maybe Shinji's not gay. Maybe Shinji's just like an asexual who likes being complimented on his looks, because he doesn't go for anyone in this series. Even like them, even if people give him the clearest fuck me eyes, he's just like, oh, thank you. That's just like Shinji. I think Shinji's an ace. Now I just convinced myself that Shinji's not even gay. That he's an asexual who likes compliments. Kind of like, I kind of spent most of this kind of like review going over two things or three things: Shinji's relationship with his dad, the romance between Shinji and Kaworu, whose name I still can't figure out how to say, and somewhat the failing budget towards the end, and how like metaphysical, metaphorical it was, how it didn't really explain or come across as anything kind of like, I didn't understand the ending. I guess like I spent a lot of my time trying to think of what it meant, and I'm still trying to figure it out, which is powerful in a way like that. It's going to keep me thinking about it for a long time. And people are going to think about it after they see it for the first time for a long time. And the people who saw it originally, I guess 20 years ago now, have probably thought about it for a long time. And it makes me really excited to see Evangelion, the end of Evangelion, and Evangelion Death True Squared, as I will call it. I'm sure it pisses people off to call it that, but I will call it that. It makes me excited to see those things, understand what the creator and the director and the writer originally intended for it after their budgets were clearly cut. But I guess it's just it did hit me how this Soul series was like building up and talking about and being a metaphor for Shinji, for depression, Shinji's like constant hate for himself. And then you would think that suddenly going from it being subtext and not direct, and then suddenly making it very direct, literally having the characters talk about their feelings in like this almost outside in perspective, like that would turn out bad. But I actually do think it was really good. I do think it got across the emotions of it. Like I think like Solar specifically when they're talking about how she feels and her like abandonment feelings of her parents and her like father and I think her stepmother. I still haven't figured that out yet. I was like, is the woman talking? Is there two women talking to Sora when she's having her like weird flashbacks? It's like, is it her birth mother and like a stepmother, or is it all her mother? I don't know, but still, like, yeah, I don't get that. But I do like the fact that it is a clear, in-depth look. It's how a person looks at themselves on television. It was Shinji looking at all the things he doesn't like about himself, all the things he feels, and his mind trying to fight off this essentially depression. And that was like I can relate. I can understand like the things that he's telling himself that I feel like I've told myself, my own mind telling myself so many times. And I feel like it was may not understand it, but it definitely hit me in a place where I'm gonna want to like. This hits me in a place that makes me wish I knew how to like to cry. So like that's what it felt like. It made me kind of. It's so hard to like articulate my own feelings about it in the way that Shinji so not easily, clearly articulated his feelings. You know, I say clearly, but I still don't understand the episode. I guess I think he clearly articulated how he feels, how he hates himself, how he doesn't understand, how he needs people's approval. That I think came across really well, and I do like that kind of introspection, like how would a character search inside itself and judge itself. Like I think I struggled with that with my own writing to try and get a character to do that, because it's hard for it to not sound feel I guess to meander or pander a bit if whether even if it's first person or third person like narration to have a character kind of look into themselves and just judge themselves. That's like I think it's just hard to do and make it seem interesting. I think they did this well in Evangelion. I think Neon Genesis Evangelion really managed to capture both how a person looks at themselves in a way that's clear because you shouldn't ever exactly replicate human behavior in art because it just gets boring. Think of all the kind of misconceptions you have every day. They're not fucking entertaining. Shooting the shit, just catching up, they're not entertaining. But you insulting yourself, like someone with like I describe my depression as like me almost putting myself down and insulting myself, but that's not necessarily the best way to put it. But like the introspection that Shinji has is both realistic in what he's saying, but it doesn't waste your time by telling you exactly what you would tell yourself. I guess. And then there's just the imagery. At some points, is beautiful. I love the shot where it's just Shinji, and then his whole inner, like I said, outline of Shinji, and his like facial features. But in the background, where it would be his skin and his shirt, I think it's his shirt too. It's just different shots, flickering shots, 100 shots like a second, of just scenes throughout the show, and it's just realizing how everyone's a part of him because he lets people's opinions affect him. I think that's supposed to represent how he lets everyone's opinions affect him and drag him down and lift him up to the point where he can't control himself anymore. Yeah. I think Shinji is probably the first, I guess, passive character to really have a really good and interesting character. Like, passive characters are characters who don't make decisions for themselves, and like the most basic way to put him, like they don't have any agency or anything. And I feel like Shinji, for the most part, I'm not saying he's not, he is an active character, but he's the most passive active character I've ever seen, where he lets people make decisions for him very often throughout the series. He lets other people decide how happy he is for him all the time. His whole reason for living is based on other people, and whenever he tries to make decisions for himself, he always faults back on what people want. Whether it's the time he quit the beginning of the series piloting the Avas, or the time at the end of the series he quit piloting the Avas. Not the very end, but like after his dad makes him fight his friend to the death. Yeah, that fucked up person again, bringing him back up. But I do this a lot, where I just like, I have a good idea going, and I just fucking lose it. Fucking lost my whole point just there. I guess what I'm just trying to get across is that, the rest right is about passive and active characters. Shinji's a really good passive character. Shinji, because I'm trying to get across that, is that Shinji lets other people essentially decide everything there is about him, except for one thing. It's that everyone's telling him who he has to be, what he has to do, and he listens except for when he's talking to one person, Soru. Soru's always putting him down, always telling you gotta man up, always telling you gotta make decisions for himself. You gotta be selfish, essentially. But yet when he's selfish, she gets mad at him. She's the one person he doesn't listen to, because she's like the one person who's actually right. She's the one person who tells him that he should essentially decide for himself, that he should do things for his own happiness, that he's less of a man for not doing things for his own happiness. And I guess in out of context, that kind of thinking can be really like toxic masculinity kind of thing, or just toxic like behavior. But for Shinji, is not, because Shinji strip doesn't have an agency of his own to make to decide what can make him happy. He doesn't know how to make himself happy. He's completely devoted to other people, and she's the only person to tell him that you should stop doing that. I mean, I guess Misato does to some context try and tell him he shouldn't do that. She does in some context try and tell him you gotta make up your mind, do things yourself. But she's not very uptight, and she's not consistent about it in the same way that Soru is. I think just Misato, like, by herself, is another person who does that a lot. But when compared to how many often Soru just beats it over the head, how pathetic and lame it is that Shinji can't perform anything on his own, Misato really kind of seems like she's not as much. It's not as much as compared to Soru. I guess, like, just to make some closing thoughts about, like, the shows that Shinji's dad's fucking terrible. Which is this, like, is a prevailing theme of, like, parenthood and how much you can so terribly affect your child's, like, development and personality and happiness. It's like an overarching theme is how parents can destroy their child's, like, complete emotional center, their emotional stability, and how you really just need to not be a garbage human being like Shinji's dad is. Essentially, that's what that, like, theme was in its most simplest form. And I think the other theme is kind of like there's an overarching, like, sexual theme to the show, the fact that they have an obsession with girls' panties constantly being strewn across the room. It's not even that they even just have, like, maybe women compromising positions, but it's not as egregious, I feel like, as other anime has been or can be. But it's clearly an obsession with sex, and, like, clearly their, I guess, sexual relations, I guess. I don't know, it's hard to describe. I don't quite understand the obsession with the white girl panties that constantly show up in the show. It's supposed to be, like, I guess, kind of sexual empowerment, not sexual empowerment, but kind of how it kind of depowers us, how it controls us, and then you use it as an outlet, and you think you have power over, like, your own sexual feelings, and then at some point you always tend to lose control. Every character tends to lose control except for Shinji, who I'm now a firm believer is an asexual character who just likes getting compliments because he doesn't fuck anyone who hits on him. God, he should have fucked Kaoru. He should have. God, I both hate and love this show so much. Yeah, and then the last theme I think is that it was just essentially exemplified by the last episodes that you shouldn't hate yourself, and that you can't be this passive person who just lets the world walk all over you. You have to, you have to get it. Get that pootie tank. No, sorry. You have to like get what you want. You have to fight for it, and you have to decide for yourself. Don't be Shinji. It's like you don't want to be Shinji. Like a lot of times, the main character is someone you don't want to be. Like you don't want to be Batman. You want to be rich like Batman, but you don't actually want to be Batman. You don't want to be Superman. Like you want all the powers, but do you really want the powers? Do you really not want to have to constantly hold back? You don't want to be. You want to be Iron Man, but you don't want to really be an alcoholic. And just with Shinji is like, you want to pilot an Ava. There's like one of his best friends, like again, like a plot point of his best friends that he wants to pilot an Ava, and Shinji knows that you don't want to do that. It's like, I guess this is an overarching theme that I see now, thinking about it, is that you don't want to be the main character. Because being the main character sucks. Being the main character tears you down. Being the main character makes you falter and just... Being the main character means you're the one who gets to watch everything burn. And it burns around you. And either you're the only one with the power to stop it, or you're the only one who's going to survive to tell about it. And that was Shinji. For like most of the series, he was the person who was in the more common arc where he's always alone. He's the last one standing, and he always felt terrible about it. Sure, there were a couple episodes where it was like, group effort, we all won together, but I don't think those were the best moments. I think the best moments were when Shinji was alone, and he was the last one standing against the angels, and he felt like both the hero and the monster. He was both happy because everyone was proud of him, because he lived off how people thought of him, then he was also sad, because he knew that it was temporary and had to do it again. Like, as everyone knows, I love Batman. As Batman says, I'm a fireman. I put out the fires and move on to the next one. Because that's what Shinji does. He puts out the fires, gets praised for it, is happy for like a smidgen of his life, and then goes to put out the next one. Exemplifying how being the main character sucks. Being the main character sucks.